Audio Jungle.
Malacca is a surprisingly small town. That being the case, the old quarters have very few streets. The streets in Malacca are some of the oldest in Malaysia. Tan Cheng Lock Street, one of the important heritage streets in Malacca, Malaysia. The street was part of the historic city of Malacca that was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2008. One of the way of keeping the heritage buildings is by recycling them to contemporary uses. This was stressed by scholars, indicating that the practice of using the old buildings could save them from being replaced by new buildings. Recycling of heritage buildings can also change their character. The original form in this case means the form of the buildings that were built during the Dutch occupation of Malacca. These buildings are characterized by low buildings with simple, utilitarian forms and basically painted by white. The buildings along the street were one of the earliest built structures built by the Dutch's accommodation quarters. The buildings that remain are basically the earliest structures built during the Dutch occupation of Malacca, 1641 till 1795, and known as Herenstraat, translated as First-Class Gentleman Street, and were built for the Dutch officers. Many of the houses were bought by the Chinese after the Dutch left Malacca. Many of the simple forms of the Dutch houses were transformed to the desires of the Chinese new owner. It should be noted that all the buildings were labeled as shop houses during the British occupation of Malacca, as indicated in the map of Malacca town, in 1916. The old buildings built in the 18th century along Tun Tan Cheng Lock Street could be rehabilitated to new contemporary uses. The reuse of an old buildings enables generation after generation to appreciate the identity of building and the street. It is desirable that the buildings can still be in use in the future. Even though the buildings survived until today, there were a few aspects that seemed to be damaging to the intention of preserving the whole street as a heritage zone. This includes the overall maintenance of the building along the street as well as the surrounding areas within the core zone. Since the majority of the building are privately owned, it is necessary to make the residents aware of the proper ways to preserve and recycle, while maintaining the heritage value of the building. The controller also need to have a deeper understanding and awareness on the heritage value buildings to ensure the building along the street retain their respective heritage value.